bit of technique I'm going to go into in this video, the use of which you heard in the previous clip, is a simple two-part chord using the index and middle fingers. And as you could hear, we get some nice lush sounds when we use the left hand on the appropriate notes. We're going to play string 3, the index is going to play string 3, and we're going to play string 2, the middle is going to play string 2. So we can we can stack the fingers very lightly together like this, plant the fingers on those strings, let the thumb rest lightly on a lower string. Now what we need to do is make sure that the knuckles aren't too high up here, keep them fairly low down, because the fingers are going to need to swing into the palm. This is a tirando stroke, not an apoyando stroke. We're going to need to miss the adjacent strings, so the fingers are going to need to curl in. What I recommend is that you plant your fingers first of all, and then just raise them up very slightly. I don't know whether you can see that. Just raise them very slightly off the strings, and we're going to do a few dummy runs now. We're going to make the correct movement, which is from the big knuckle here, not any of the other joints of the fingers, but from this joint you can see this movement. And you notice I'm making a little twitchy movement there, so I'm letting the movement happen and then relaxing the hand and letting the fingers spring back to where they were. So you just get used to that movement in the air. It's got to be that movement and not this movement or this movement. See, I'm really only moving substantially anyway from that joint, from these joints. So just get used to that movement. Twitch, release, twitch, release, twitch, release. When you're happy with that movement, you can do that comfortably. You can now plant the fingers back on the strings, very, very lightly. Very tips of the fingers on the strings. You're not going to poke the fingers through the strings at all. It's got to be the very tips of the fingers on the strings. If you play with nails, it's right up on the tip of the finger, right up against the nail. And we're going to play very quietly because we want to make sure that the action remains just right. So just doing exactly the same action now. Plant, plant, play, release. Try and get the notes absolutely together, and of course try and avoid this kind of action. You notice my knuckles aren't flat there. I've got a fair angle here, so that my fingers can swing in. I'm also not tugging the hand away. Just letting them swing in like that. Get used to the action though with the dummy runs first, then very, very softly, almost not thinking about actually plucking the string, but just starting the fingers on the strings, and they just happen to sound because when you make the action, if you can think of it that way, they just happen to sound when you make the action. When you're comfortable with that, push a little bit harder, let the weight of the hand just bear down on the strings, and you get a louder sound. Now if you're using the nails on the right hand to play, the quality of the sound you're going to get is going to be influenced by the angle that they come across the strings. And you can see that with my hand in this position, the movement is a slight angle across the strings. Fingers aren't coming straight across the strings, they're coming across a very slight angle, just very, very slight. So that means that when I plant the tips of my fingers on the strings, the nail will be bearing up against the strings at a slight angle. So we're starting on the thumb side of the nail and riding across the nail, and that gives us a nice mellow tone. That's assuming, of course, that your nail shape and the edge condition of the nail is good, but that's another thing that I'm not going to go into this time. Okay.